Hello, everybody. Nick Doss again with BCC Distribution, and we've got we're about 3 minutes in. We want to give everybody a chance that gets us last-minute reminders to join. And anybody that's having trouble with GoToMeeting, I apologize, but usually the web browser requires you to download an add-on if you don't already have that. But we're going to go ahead and get started. First and foremost, I'd like to welcome everyone that's joined the presentation, and thank you for attending. We really appreciate you taking time to view our webinar. And this is a little spontaneous, but one of the things that we did for this webinar in order to try to make it more beneficial through the whole presentation versus just a PowerPoint that might get a little bit boring, is we went out and asked for feedback on what people want to see. And really what we got pretty consistently was people want to see a full turnkey system. They want to see a label being printed. They want to see somebody scanning a barcode. They want to see product moving through the warehouse or the manufacturing process. They want to see the transactions on the screen. So what we have built is a full turnkey transaction system that's broken out into a 3-part webinar series. So today's part 1, and I'm going to get into that just a little bit, or in just a moment. First thing that I wanted to, or second thing I wanted to let everybody know is that everyone is muted. So if you are speaking up and have a question, even when we get to the Q&A section at the end, you are muted. If you do have a question, and we encourage questions depending on how long the webinar actually takes, we're scheduled for an hour. We hope to go about 45 minutes or so to allow for questions, but you never know. If you do have questions, please submit those questions via the GoToMeeting chat. We have a moderator who is Lisa Fritz. She will be watching that chat and scribbling down the questions as we go. So if you have one, we will answer it. If we run out of time to answer it, we will get with you offline. Myself or one of my counterparts here at BCC Distribution will reach out to you to answer that question and any other questions you might have from this part or other parts of the webinar series. Real quickly, I'm going to take just a moment here to introduce the team at BCC Distribution who's going to be participating in today's webinar. So myself, Nick Doss, I'm the Senior Account Executive for Software Sales at BCC Distribution. I'm based in Chicago, Illinois. I've got Lisa Fritz, who is also a Senior Account Executive and our resident equipment expert, who is out of our corporate office here in Canton, Michigan. Also on the line, I've got Roelof de Vries, who is our Senior SAP Development Software Engineer. We thought it's a good idea to have some really strong technical backup for our webinar in case those questions arise. Also, last but not least, we have John Newman, who is our inventory control and warehouse automation expert, and just so happens to be the president of BCC Distribution. So with the introduction said, if you have questions, submit them via GoToMeeting, but I'd like to jump right into the webinar. So again, I kind of gave a quick introduction and setup at the beginning, but let me elaborate. So this 3-part webinar series is a multi-part series to illustrate BCC Distribution's approach to using barcode technology with SAP to improve accuracy, visibility, and add simplicity to your inventory control system. This webinar series has specifically been designed to take you through a behind-the-scenes tour and will provide actual system demonstrations of the material going through a full life cycle of the SAP inventory control system, as I mentioned before. Parts 1, 2, and 3 will each provide insight and information about BCC Distribution's SAP-based barcoding systems. That means the technology, the architecture, the environment, as well as the system functionality. So that's a lot of information, and I said it really fast, I apologize, but that's the webinar series as a whole. Specifically for today, part 1 is focused on demonstrating the automated processes of receiving your inventory into your system, identifying items with internally used barcode labels for accurate tracking, and then staging those items for quality and readiness. BCC Distribution can introduce you to Train ASAP, a solution designed for mobile technology that uses direct connectivity with SAP to automate the processes and updates the data in SAP in real time, providing immediate validation and simplifying the operator's user experience, or UX, which SAP is advertising a lot. And this user experience with SAP to enable those operators to perform their tasks quicker, easier, and wherever they are in the warehouse. So specifically, as we see on this title slide here, it says Part 1, Analyze, Design, Receive and Label, and Put Away. That's what we're going to focus on today. For your information, Part 2 is going to be work in progress for production, including document and label printing, as well as issuing goods. Part 3 is going to be a dive into packing for delivery, again, including documents and label printing, cycle counting, and making inventory inquiries. See if I can get to the next slide here. So, to give you a little more of a deep dive into today's agenda, this is what we're really going to be going through, what we're going to be walking through, and we've got a few slides that have a lot of pictures and videos. Less words, more pictures is what we're going for. We're going to start with a very brief introduction to BCC. We're going to talk about the prerequisites for a barcoding system, really deep diving into the analysis and design process, what you need to know, the requirements and considerations. We're going to look at the labeling. That is the warehouse location labeling, identifying where your product is located in the warehouse, as well as product, material, inventory specific labeling. We're going to talk about the receiving process, and we're going to show you that process in a couple of different ways. We're going to look at putting material away and moving material, and then we're going to give you an update at the tail end of the presentation on the latest barcoding equipment and technology, including the equipment itself, operating systems such as Windows and Android, touchscreen functionality, that kind of thing. And then finally, at the end, we're going to wrap up, give you a little bit more of a glimpse as to Part 2, Part 3, and then answer some questions that we get for this webinar presentation. Okay, so starting with a quick, and again, I'm going to keep it brief. I've spent more time on the first 2 slides than I probably should have already, but for those who are not familiar with BCC Distribution, again, we are headquartered in Canton, Michigan, which is just outside of Detroit. We've got offices in Chicago, Illinois, Cleveland, Ohio, Dallas, Texas, and Denver, Colorado areas. Been in business for about 23 years, and we've got really, we've got about 50 plus years of experience with SAP, as well as we are certified with both SAP, with Zebra Technologies, and we've been partners, or we are partners with both. We are ourselves a SAP user, and our software and services are certified with SAP. At the end of the day, BCC Distribution's mission is really to design and deliver integrated solutions, as it says on the screen, for data collection, RF scanning, and enterprise printing for SAP that reduce costs and increase profits. BCC Distribution has 2 divisions of our organizations. One division is for SAP and software development. The other division is really focused on systems integration. So selling the equipment, supporting the equipment, installing the equipment, and then tying all those pieces together. And that's kind of demonstrated here at the bottom, the turnkey barcode solution. The equipment, the RF scanners, the printers, the wireless APs, services to stage the equipment, install the equipment, train you on the equipment, tie all the pieces together, and then the software. The software is really dictated by the process. It's going to be running on your handheld devices. It's interacting with SAP. It's running on a handheld device to allow connectivity. We really focus on delivering a turnkey system, as it's often called. John might say it once or twice in a presentation, one throat to choke for a barcoding system. So with that said, wanted to keep the introduction brief. I'd like to turn it over to John Newman. Again, he is our resident inventory control and warehousing automation expert. John?
Thank you, Nick. I appreciate it. And good morning, everybody. We'd like to start off with the core of our deliverable, which is Train ASAP. Train ASAP is our software, BCCD software, that we include as part of all of our deliverables when we talk about barcode scanning and barcode printing. Train ASAP is a product that is mobilized software transactions that we have canned, that we've customized. It is a direct connect product, meaning that there is no middleware. It is truly SAP transactions, IM transactions, WM transactions, MM transactions, that we've used our own standards, we've used our own proprietary development procedures and processes, and have created over 200 transactions that utilize a company's SAP pre-configured software, and it utilizes the mobile software tools from SAP. A mobile software tool is Console from the Telnet version. It is ITS Mobile from the web browser version, and it's also Fiori as we move forward into S4 HANA and the cloud, et cetera, et cetera. The way that SAP has originally and initially designed their systems, again, is a direct connect methodology. You'll see here, it's extremely simple. From an ITS mobile or a web browser perspective, we have the SAP software on a server. It does not matter if it's in the cloud, if it's hosted, if it's local. The software transactions that we've customized, which would be like Amiga 101 or an LT product, that will all be on that same server. And ITS Mobile, which is SAP's software deliverable, that also is on that server. The only other piece of software will be a web browser license on the RF scanner. That RF scanner will be at the warehouse where there will be a wireless network. SAP will already be networked to that facility, and that's it. So as long as we have a browser on the RF scanner and we have the ITS mobile transactions on the SAP server, we now have a real-time RF scanning system. The key to any type of barcode scanning system, and specifically the presentation that we're going through today, is really a case study. And this case study is a live company that we have developed a full range of transactions. Again, as Nick mentioned, we're only going to show you 3 or 4 transactions. One of the things that we've learned over the years is, at the end of the day, anyone can write ABAP programs and have a barcode scanning solution integrate to SAP. But there's a lot of moving parts. And because we have so many moving parts, we have to do some analysis. And it's not just a normal analysis, blueprinting of the functionality, it's understanding all the components. And with this case study, we have to look at 5 major pieces of the environment. What's nice about BCC is that we do have the capabilities of understanding warehousing, equipment from a barcode printer, from a RF scanner point of view, or a tablet. We have expertise in mobility, SAP, networking, wireless. And we have to really understand all these pieces before we can implement a barcode scanning system that will be efficient for every single customer. The first thing that we look at when we do this analysis, and every company will have to do this if they truly want to solve their data collection issues and make their business more efficient. The first one is what we call the physical environments. We have to look at the buildings, the walls, the ceilings, how high the ceilings, the locations within the buildings. Are we using racks? Are we putting inventory on floors? Are we actually holding inventory outside in the elements? Sometimes we have trucks where we actually have miniature warehouses in the trucks, in the parking lots. These are all areas that we need to understand. Do we have intrinsically safe? Do we have explosive-proof environments? These, again, are questions that we need to understand. Are we in the food business where we have freezers and cold storage? Do we have moisture? Do we have rain and water? Do we need to submerge the equipment? We have a customer in Nova Scotia that we actually track lobsters. So we have to have special materials that will handle salt water, not only from a scanner perspective, but also from the label and the tags. We then look at the existing network. How are we communicating with SAP? Is it a VPN network? Is it a T1? We need to understand all of these items so that we can configure the appropriate equipment for printing and scanning. And then we we hit the whole locations and labeling. We have a whole team here that we actually help design not only the numbers and the letters that we put on the locations within SAP, but also what type of tags, what type of hanging labels, et cetera, et cetera. And then we go into the actual inventory labeling. We need to understand when we are talking with raw materials, does the vendor have labels? Do we want to talk about a whole system where we actually send inventory labels to our vendors? Again, these are capabilities that we have. Once we go through the physical environment, we go to the technical environment, where we understand more, do we have wireless within the warehouses? And if not, we can assist with designing, site surveying, and making sure that everywhere we want a barcode scan, barcode print, we have the capabilities of doing that within those areas. Do we need to do real-time versus batch? What software are we trying to deal with? Do we have SAP ECC? Do we have HANA? Do we have S4? Again, all options that we can deliver solutions to and with, but we need to make sure we handle all those questions up front prior to designing the actual appropriate system. After we do the technical environment, questionnaire, and study, then it's the functional environment. And this is where now it becomes more fun. This is where we actually understand what really are we doing. What inventory transactions within IM? What inventory transactions within warehouse management? Which ones make sense to be mobilized? Which ones make sense to stay within the GUI on the PC itself? Do we want to do quality? Do we want to do production? And again, we'll run through every single SAP transaction that you're utilizing today, and then we'll verify which ones make sense to be mobilized and which ones not. And again, because it's direct connect and there's no middleware, what we're doing is we're taking a MIGO transaction and we are mobilizing it on the RF scanner, but only using the screen size on the scanner and only having the exact data that your company and your users want to see. We review other specifics besides the transactions. Are you handling unit management? Do you want to use HUs? Are you utilizing storage unit management? Or do you want to? And for people that don't understand or don't use HU and SU, HUs and SUs are something that we utilize and we call license plates. So we can actually put a barcode label or a master label on a pallet, on a container, and in SAP it's called an HU or SU, where we scan one barcode opposed to 20 or 50 barcodes that are in that pallet or in that container. And we review best practices during this study, okay? Batch management, serialization, lot tracking, outside processing. Do we use multiple languages? All different things that we, again, must review before we start implementation of the scanning system. And then business process improvement and ROI. And this is really where our warehousing experts, this is where we really shine, because at the end of the day, why do barcoding if we're not going to save money, if we're not going to become more efficient, if we're not going to be able to put more inventory, more sales through the company? So verification of the process improvement. Example, which you'll see today, receiving, we can do a one-step process or a two-step process. And again, it's based on what you do today, what makes your company more efficient. The validation of system adoption, meaning an example here is on the barcode scanners. Everything we do is highly customized. We want the users to see the words they want to see. If one customer, they look at all their inventory as SKUs, then we'll put SKUs on the scanning screen. If it's material, we'll put the word material. We've learned the users want to see what they want to see. And vendor and customer compliance. And this is also kind of part of the ROI. Do we need to have special barcode methodologies, barcode symbologies, barcode styles for our customers? GS1, GHS, et cetera, et cetera. Very, very popular right now. and we are adapting all these standards in our systems. EDI, ASNs, specifically for the Walmarts and the Myers, these giant corporations. We can build all this in these standards in our systems as well. Okay. Once we get through all those requirements from a hardware environment, process, etc., we then actually do the actual blueprint here itself, where we actually, everything that we implement, you'll see on paper, from the menus and the screens to the operator interaction, so that they will know if I scan the wrong part number, what SAP states, what we do next, do we bring in the supervisor for an override. This will all be documented. We've got the technical callouts, as well as the label generation, and what the pick slips will look like, what the shipping labels will look like, all part of the analysis and the BCC blueprinting. Sometimes these blueprints can be up to 60, 70 pages because they're so detailed. But the key to our blueprint and our analysis is we guarantee it. So everything that we put in writing is guaranteed as the deliverable. Okay. So once we get the blueprinting done, we must have labels. Without barcode labels, we cannot scan. If we can't scan, there's no reason to have RF scanners. So the first thing that we need to do is have locations. How are we going to track locations? With inventory, not only do we need to know what we're scanning, but for inventory control and accuracy, we need to know where it is, how many, and potentially what batch, what serial, what lot numbers. So what we do is we work with the client to understand, again, what type of racking systems, what type of locations. We help manage and test and train to validate how far the scanning needs to be. Are we going to scan from the ground, from a forklift truck that is actually on the ground, or in a cherry picker that rises to that location? And when we do that review, we know exactly what type of barcode label, what mill size, what type of material, and we guarantee that we'll get that scanning distance to match your needs or requirements. We'd like to show a little video regarding how we look at and how we analyze location labeling. To some companies and some people, this is simple, and to others, this is rocket science. So we've got this video here to show you that there's a lot of different options. We can put them vertical, we can put them horizontal. The key here is what makes sense for you. What type of racks, what type of products, how high to the ceiling. We can hang barcodes from the ceiling. We can actually affix barcodes on the floor. We can put them on the vertical beams, and we can put them on the horizontal beams. We can have arrows pointing up, arrows pointing down, or even diagonal to show what level that each barcode represents. You'll notice you've seen a couple of them with different colors, where one color will be the lowest level, and then the next is the next level, so on and so on and so forth. We have the ability to design and print the location labels, and we have the ability to assist our customers with affixing them with cables and ropes, as well as special adhesive for the floor. We've got some customers that use magnets, and some use a special wax paper where you can peel the label off if we are going to be changing locations periodically. Many of our clients already have locations and barcoded locations, which is fine. Some have new facilities. So we show the video just to let our customers and prospects know that we do have the capabilities to assist you in any type of way to do so. Okay. I think that's good. The last thing that I will note regarding the location labeling, is the last slide that you saw there was the hanging high reflective barcodes. The barcode scanners that we sell and support will scan up to 40 feet away. They will also scan as close as 6 to 8 inches away. And based on the mill size of the barcode, as well as the material, will depict how far that we can scan, and again, we make sure that we handle that requirement. Okay. We've got the labels on the locations. Those locations are specific to the locations within SAP. We can do 1D, we can do 2D, meaning that if we wanted to have a lot of information in a barcode on a location, we could. We could actually have material, batch, even lot numbers built into a 2D barcode on a location if and only if we have dedicated locations. For a parts crib scenario, that would work out excellent. But for a open location where we are putting away items and pallets in a spot that's open, we would just want to have that location number built into the barcode. Now we have something to barcode from a location. Now we have to have something barcoded at the time of receipt. We need to understand, do we have the luxury that the vendors are putting barcodes on raw materials when they are received? Rarely do we have that luxury, but sometimes we do. Sometimes it comes with our part number, sometimes it comes with a vendor part number. Within SAP, we have a luxury to use a cross-reference file. So if we have barcodes on raw materials as they come in that are using consistently the vendor's part numbers, we can actually utilize the cross-reference file to scan the vendor's part number to represent and mean our internal part number. So that is an option if we have that luxury. The majority of our customers don't have either one of those luxuries, and we need to generate labels at the time of receipt. And with that, we then design internal barcodes utilizing either Bartender, SAP Script, Smart Forms, or Adobe, or in some scenarios, a combination of Smart Forms or SAP Script and Bartender. These are all options that we have, and you'll see with this screen that the data will come from SAP, it'll be triggered by SAP, and it'll be printed either on a barcode thermal transfer, direct thermal printer, that's tabletop, that's fixed to a station, to an office. It can be a laser printer. With Bartender, we can print off laser printers or thermal transfer printers, or really any type of printer that they have drivers, and they have a multitude of drivers, or mobile printers, as you can see here. We can print 2D, we can print 1D, we can print fonts, we can print logos, we can print pictures. So we have lots and lots of options, and together as a team, we decide the size, we decide what information that we want on that barcode, and what needs to be barcoded, and what doesn't. And with our best practices professionals, we help decide what makes sense. Most of our customers do not barcode the quantity. We want that manually entered, and we can go into that as we go. And this screen just shows you an example. On the left is a Bartender generated label. To the right is a SAP Script type of programming. Okay. One of the ways that we make a company more efficient is to do what we call demand printing at receiving. Demand printing means that I need a label, I generate a single label or labels for that specific order, opposed to generating a roll of 100 or 1,000 labels, and then I bring it to a workstation, and then eventually I match it up with the appropriate inventory. In this scenario, and I believe we've got a video here to to give an example to show what this is. So here's an example of how we can use portable, real-time barcode printing at the time of receipt. So we'll have a RF scanner. This one looks like a PDA. It is direct connected to SAP, and we are generating a unique serial label for lot tracking as well as maintenance purposes. This can be receiving, this can be quality control, and as you can tell, it's a battery-powered Wi-Fi printer that allows us to receive into SAP real-time with an ITS mobile screen, generate a label, and affix that onto an item, a product, a pallet. Okay, receiving. So again, we have locations we have barcode labels on locations. We now know how to generate the labels on the raw materials, on the inventory. Now we have to receive it. So we are going to be taking a MIGO 101 transaction, which BCC has mobilized through our TranASAP product. We utilize the canned SAP menu system, as you can see to the right here, and we're going to go ahead in real time, being able to match a purchase order from SAP to the purchase order we are receiving. When we receive items on the tax slip, or we can actually scroll through the system, the best way we like is to be able to either scan or enter the PO number onto the scanner. Again, that PO number is generated from SAP, and then we will be able to receive all of the items with one button, or line by line by line, receive the items on the scanner. Once we've done that, we can generate barcode labels for each one so that we are ready to put away. I believe we have a video that we can show, and here it is. So again, this gives us gives you an example of a MIGO 101 transaction. We're validating a purchase order. Now again, as I mentioned, the information you see here is customized to this customer. They wanted to see descriptions, they wanted to see quantities, they wanted to show receipts, and have the ability to generate. This is a frame for this customer showing exactly what they want to see. And everything that we'll be talking about today and the next two webinars are all menu driven. We can start with one transaction, or we can start with many transactions. Okay, we've now received, now we put away. And the goal here is to show really the ease of use. We have a real-time video here of actually a production demo showing the receipt just before we put away. And again, the company is MAG Automotive. You're going to see a couple of different things. You're going to see some console transactions. You're going to see some ITS mobile transactions. And again, all of our software and all these systems will work with either console, ITS mobile. ITS mobile, which is the browser product, is the latest and the greatest. This is where SAP is kind of moving everybody. But based on what version of SAP you have, and if you have older RF scanning equipment, console may be a very, very good suggestion for you as a customer. And again, this video is actually a live demo. This is actually showing what this customer does for purchasing. I had mentioned earlier regarding a portal-based system, a vendor portal system to generate labels. And in this scenario, this customer actually put together with our assistance in design a vendor portal system to push barcode labels to their vendors, where they would either print them on a barcode printer or a LaserJet printer and affix them on the packaging so that they could actually scan the items as they come in, and then they generated a put-away ticket or an internal inventory label that they put on these bags where they put the parts in to be ready and get ready for their put-away. And I'm going to kind of speed things up here a little bit because we've got some real interesting information on hardware and equipment and where Zebra is going with their technology. But you heard me mention that there can be a one-step versus two-step process with Putaway. We have some clients that will receive to a staging area, and that will be a transaction. We receive via the MIGO 101. It updates immediately in SAP, and it shows that the location is in a staging area. And then they take a second transaction, which could be an S-lope to S-lope, a bin to bin, which would be a second step. And that would be a put-away transaction to physically move it from staging to a location. So we've got the one step, which I could receive it, and it would say, automatically put it in this designated location. Don't put it in staging. That would be one step. Two step would be I receive it to staging, and then I move it from staging to a location. And every time I pull that trigger, I have SAP telling me that this is where it belongs, this is the right product, this is the right quantity, real-time validation. Okay. As you'll see, this is part of the two-step where we are moving the item, the product, from a location, which is staging, to a location. And what's nice about the way that we've designed this is that it's a generic transaction that not only can we move it as a put-away, but we can use that same transaction as any type of internal move. So we can move it from bin to bin, or for IM, S-lope to S-lope, or storage location to storage location. And again, this is a demonstration in real life of not only moving the product, but showing on an SAP screen that it is moving in real time from a location to another location. And what we wanted to show is different types of options. Again, we mentioned the one-step and the two-step. We've got one company that builds giant machines, and we have another one that builds vehicles. And for the most part, the transactions are identical. It's the user interface on the scanning screens that are going to be different. But from an SAP perspective, it is the same. So it really doesn't matter what we make. We just we make sure that we utilize how SAP was implemented and how it makes each company successful. In this scenario, we are tracking batch numbers. So when we put away, not only are we scanning the location, the material number, and the quantity, but we're also capturing the batch number. And we do have the capabilities of being able to pick by batch number, pick by serial number, and we'll get into that on our next WebEx. Lisa Fritz, our expert on equipment technology, would like now to make everyone privy of what is happening in the RF scanning and barcode printing industries.
Perfect. Thanks, John. I actually wanted to note that last video we all were looking at was actually made by the customer themselves to show their corporate office the system and the ROI it brought to the company. I just always thought that was interesting, so I just want to throw that out there. But as John mentioned, we are a turnkey solution provider, so part of that solution is going to be the hardware. The different types of hardware that BCC Distribution is able to provide include scanners, both corded and Bluetooth, mobile terminals that include some of the ones you saw in the video, vehicle terminals, tablets, printers. We can do mobile printers, tabletop printers, small little desktop printers, We can provide the wireless infrastructure to include controllers and access points, and then all of the accessories to make these items work how you want, whether or not it's a holster, a cradle, different charging accessories, and things like that, even some custom-made holders we've done before. And of all of this equipment that we provide, BCCD does certify specific equipment, and you'll see some of that for SAP's native RF scanning system. So first I wanted to get into the operating system, the OS landscape. As many of you might have heard over the last year or few years, Microsoft is no longer going to be doing the WM and CE operating systems for the business side of their mobile computing. So you'll note at the bottom, we can still order that operating system on certain terminals. However, Microsoft has stopped its primary support as of 2015. They will be doing some support to 2020, but it's not going to have any new patches or anything along these lines. With this information, we really needed everyone to start shifting to the mindset of Android. Also during that time, it was Windows 10 was being looked at by Zebra and basically the world. However, Zebra has released one terminal that you'll see that does have Windows 10 in it, and they are having quite a lot of difficulty with that, which I may have Mark at the end talk to that. But Zebra has released a statement that they are no longer going to be offering any new devices with the Windows 10 operating system, since Microsoft has stated publicly they're abandoning the Windows 10 OS with no new version, and they're only going to be providing bug and security patches. So this is really important for everybody that's looking to potentially move to a new terminal, that truly the stance that Zebra has, which BCCD agrees with, is the Windows 10 is not the operating system to go to, okay? So this really has us look at Android. So Android, you know, everybody's used to that either on their phone or whatever. But Zebra has its own enhanced version of the Android operating system, which they call the MX. And what that does is it really makes the Android enterprise friendly. So there's more security with it than you'll see on your consumer phones. That's been a concern with a lot of people. But you'll also notice the majority of the equipment I'm about to show you, all of the equipment I'm about to show you has an Android operating system available for it. So it really is what you're going to need to look to if you're looking to upgrade or you're looking to get some additional equipment. On this screen, I did want to throw this in here. One of the other things that Zebra does for its customers is if you are on a maintenance agreement, which BCCD recommends for everything that we propose, they do have what they're calling the lifeguard for the Android system. So instead of Android only supports their consumer operating systems for 3 years, we have ours supported for 5 years minimum. So we know in the business world that we want our equipment to last a lot longer. In the consumer world, people are getting new phones every year, 2 years, 3 years max. But in the business world, we need our equipment to be lasting 5 to 10 years. So this lifeguard from Android really does help ensure your investment into the Android operating system. So let's get into some equipment. So this terminal probably looks familiar to a lot of you. It's the MC92NO, which the predecessor was the MC9090, MC9190, and this is now the current version of that. On the MC92NO, you can tell it looks exactly the same. All of the accessories that you may have for the 9090s, 9190s do work with the 92NO. So batteries, holsters, mounts, all of those accessories do work with this, which is a nice feature that Zebra did for us. Some of the improvements, and I apologize, I forgot to make a note, are the different operating systems. We can do Windows Mobile still, CE still, but most importantly, Android. These do have the full WLAN, the batteries at least 10 hours. I would actually like to say 10 to 12, but the more we use it, the more it starts to wear down. And we do have a lot of scan engine options. So you heard John mention earlier in the presentation about scan distance and things that we can help you guys to figure out. And part of that is then determining what scan engine we need. Do we need to scan 40 feet away on a retroreflective label? If yes, then we're going to need a long-range linear scanner or long-range imager. And the 92NO is one of the very few that allow for this option. So not all the terminals you see actually can do long-range scanning. So that's one of the difference makers for the 92NO, and it still has a physical keypad. So that is important when you're looking at the equipment, if you want a physical keypad or if your team's looking to potentially go to a soft keypad. This is one of Zebra's newest and favorite terminals that they have, called the TC8000. And if any of you have talked to John or Nick recently, you probably also heard the term ice cream scoop. We can't get that on the spec sheet for some reason. I'm not sure why, but it's officially what it's called here at BCC. So Zebra's stance on this new terminal is that it is supposed to gain about 14% more productivity. And the reason that they have that statement out there and are standing firmly behind it is because of the physical look and design of this terminal. So I'm showing you the front of it and then the back also. So because of that position where the scan engine is on the back, you can scan labels while still looking at the screen, versus if we have the 9000 series, we scan and then have to tilt the screen back to us to see if it populated or what it might be. This terminal allows you to look at your screen while still scanning, allowing your users to kind of speed through their process a bit more. So this unit's been out, gosh, at least a year, if not two by now, I think, and they do have 3 scan engine options here. And we can do standard range, a medium range, and a long range. The long range is very new. And so that does allow you to have that option should you need to scan those location labels farther away. Again, with all of the equipment Zebra offers, they do have maintenance agreements that have comprehensive coverage. So if you run something over with a forklift, just sweep up the pieces, find the serial number, and create an RMA. This terminal is only available with Android. Okay, so there is no physical keypad here. It is a soft keypad only option, and it does have Android only. One of the latest terminals for the rugged PDA options. So on the left-hand side, you'll see it's a TC70 or TC75, and that's determined on whether or not you have the cellular on there or not. Can come in Android or Windows 10. And then the terminals that's replacing are on the right, the MC55 series, the 67 series. They have reached their end of life with even some of those SKUs already stocked out. So the TC70 and 75, they have, again, the TC75 has the cell phone in it. It has the Windows 10 IoT option for the Android, for the operating system, which again is not something we recommend, but you can, as of today, purchase it with it. This only has a standard range imager, so this would not be a terminal that you would want to do any sort of extended range scanning in it. But it does have the imager, which allows for 1D and 2D scanning. It also comes with a camera and Bluetooth, the maintenance options, things like that. I think you guys might have seen on some of the slides, I have PTT for push to talk. So that is, a lot of this equipment is coming out with the availability to do push to talk. And they have, Zebra has a few different version levels that we may get into in another presentation, but this one also has that option. And then vehicle terminals. Zebra has 3 options. We have a VC70N, the operating system CE7, a VH10 operating system CE6, and I believe that one's reaching its end of life, I think, next year. I can validate that for anybody if they would like. And then the BC8000, that one is their latest and greatest and does have some different operating systems, so I wanted to focus more on that one. So it has a Windows 7, Windows 10, and Android options. That does not have a keypad with it, but you can get a keypad in addition, which is what you see there. There's different mounting options, a U bracket, a RAM mount. It does have a screen blinking box option. So sometimes you may be dictated by OSHA that if your driver is in motion, that the screen has to be blank for safety concerns, but once they take their foot off the gas pedal, the screen comes back up. So it does have options like that. There are freezer versions available. It is touchscreen should you not use a physical keypad, and again, maintenance options. Along with the vehicle terminal, you'll see that they have a new rugged scanner options here from Zebra. In the lower left side, that one might look familiar to some of you guys. It was the LS series of 3408, 35, all of that good stuff. Their latest and greatest is this new lime green and gray one, and it is fantastic. So we use the Bluetooth version or the corded version to work with the vehicle terminals or with a laptop, or really basically anything that you see that may see fit. You can have a vehicle holster for it, or a lot of times if it's Bluetooth, we have it on a zip line up in the corner so that your user can pull it down, scan, and release. The tablets are an item that a lot of people have been very interested in. Zebra has their newest version is called the ET50 or ET55, and it can be in Windows 10 or Android. It comes either 8-inch or 10-inch. The difference is the ET50 has WLAN only, the 55 has WLAN and cellular. So as you can see by the weights I have on here, they're pretty light, and they are extremely rugged. But again, with a tablet, my favorite part from Zebra is that these are swappable batteries. You do not have to plug it in order to charge it. You can take a battery in and out. There's lots of accessories. You can do a snap-on handle that clicks as you rotate the tablet. They have a forklift mount for it. They have a lot of different shoulder straps, a lot of different options to make this work as you want. These come standard with a camera, but we can get an actual scanner attachment ordered to come with it. So BCC has been starting to sell these tablets recently, and they've been going very well. As you can see, soft keypad input, no physical keypad, but you could Bluetooth a keypad to it if you were stationary and you wanted to do that. Printers. So Zebra has gotten rid of some of their most popular printers, the XI series and the 105 SL series, and they've been replaced by the new ZT610 you'll see at the top, which is going to be their most industrial printer, which also means most expensive printer, and has a lot of great features to it. The screen is color, it plays videos. It's a great printer. And then the ZT510, which is kind of in between the ZT410 and 610, which is rugged. It's good for dirty environments. That replaces the 105 SL series there. In the middle of the screen, we have the ZT410. This is the most popular printer that BCC Distribution provides. It has a great price point, and it's very industrial. Sometimes we don't need a printer that holds 1,000 labels on a roll. It's just we're printing off something here or there for a specific customer, or it has a specific color label. So we just want to use a smaller, what we call a desktop printer. So it only fits like a 5-inch OD roll in there. So we have those options for you also. In the mobile printers, so there's nothing too new in mobile printing, but the two standards that BCCD leads with is the ZQ510, that is the newest of the two, and the QLN420. Both of these are label printers. They're direct thermal. These can be worn on your hip with a shoulder strap, or they have mounts for the forklift, which I have just provided recently, and you can have a full stack of fanfold labels underneath being fed through in order to print from the forklift. But these are great printers. And then there's mobile management software, which we're actually going to touch on in a separate webinar in one of the other two series. And so we can get into that a little bit more there. I know we're running out of time. So I'm going to stop and answer some of the questions that's popped up. Or actually, I don't know, Nick, if you want to just tell them about the next two, and then I'll go into questions.
Yeah. I'd like to take just a quick minute. I know that we're running out of time here, and I want to allow a few questions. But I just want to give everybody a preview. So again, what we talked about today, which everybody's pretty familiar with, was the analysis process, which is really critical to understanding and designing a system that is going to work well and be implemented and adopted well as the receiving, labeling process, the put away and movements. Part 2 is going to be, again, a review and demonstration of the next step transactions that make up the full life cycle of material movements through the inventory control process. And really what we're going to focus on is work in process, including documents and label printing as part of that process, issuing goods or goods issue. And then part 3, again, these are to be determined. The date will be announced shortly. Part 3 will kind of wrap up that full life cycle with the materials for picking for delivery, again, including documents and label printing for pick tickets and documentation, cycle counting for actually being able to count inventory, take physical inventories, which a lot of people are starting to do with the end of the year coming up, and then making inventory inquiries, allowing you to actually go out and find materials or find locations on demand when needed. So with that said, that was kind of the next 2 parts of our webinar series. And Lisa, I'll toss it back to you to see if there are any questions that we'd like to address.
Perfect. Thanks, Nick. I did have a couple pop-ups. I'm going to ask them real quick, hopefully quick answers. All right. So the first one I do want to address that I feel is very important is, does your software work with S/4HANA? Nick or John?
Yes, the answer is that it does work with S/4HANA as well as HANA running ECC.
Excellent, great. I like that answer. Also, I had someone ask if they can get a copy of our transactions list, and yes, you can if you just want to. I already know who you are that asked it, but if anybody else wants a copy of the transactions list, please just shoot me a note in chat or shoot myself.
Yeah, and there's the email address is right on the screen there, so info@bccdistribution.com, or if you're already in touch with Lisa, myself, or somebody else at BCC Distribution, you just reach out to us at any time, and we're happy to provide that to you.
Thanks, Nick. I should have probably looked at the screen. Also, does this software work with IM and WM? I'm not sure who we want to answer that out of you, Ruloff, and Nick.
Yeah, so the answer is it runs under and with IM. It also runs with and on WM, and a combination. So if you have a facility that's WM, another is IM, and you're moving back and forth, it'll do both.
Perfect, thank you. Do we do cycle counting?
We do multiple versions of cycle counting as well as physical. So we can do blind, we can do validation, we can do ad hoc. We have multiple versions.
Perfect. And then, Nick, will the software also work with counsel?
Yes, to answer your question. So we've kind of demonstrated that through the process. We showed a little bit in the videos and the walkthroughs of the console-based transactions as well as the ITS mobile transactions. And John, I'd like you, can you elaborate on the actual migration real quick? So a lot of people might already have SAP console or are looking at web browser-based ITS mobile.
It's actually, the quick answer is it's relatively simple. The back-end programs, which is the op programs, are all reusable from console to ITS mobile. So it's just changing the telnet screens to browser screens, and that is not a very large project that we can endeavor.
Thank you. And then, real quick question for me. Can I upgrade from my MC9190 CE to an Android? And the answer is no, you cannot. You had to have a special version of a Windows Mobile Premium on the 92 to upgrade to Android. So unfortunately, that equipment is not upgradable, but there is a rebate program if you do want to upgrade to Android before the end of the year that Zebra's offering that you can let me know and I can get you some information on if you're interested. Let me think. The last question I have that came over is, do we do anything with chemical labeling or compliance? Yeah,
I'll take that real quick. So specifically for chemical labeling, there's the GHS requirements, globally harmonized system of classifications for labeling chemicals. So GHS labeling and chemical labeling, yes, we can address that. Again, for our automated printing processes, we like to leverage Bartender to allow us to be able to print to agnostically to any label printer. So If it's a thermal label printer that's black and white, we can print to that. If it's a BS 5609 compliant color label that we're running through an Epson printer or Primera or a Lexmark that actually requires color pictograms and is saltwater immersion, we can handle that as well. Again, Bartender gives us the ability to be able to print to any printer that we want agnostically. All we have to do is design that label, establish the fixed and the dynamic data sources on that label, and map them together with our SAP interface called Print ASAP, and we're good to go. So yeah, chemical labeling is really not that much more difficult than accomplishing a typical goods receipt label, honestly.
Thank you, Nick. And I don't have any more questions that have come over. So as of right now, this presentation is over. I thank you, everybody, for your time. Thanks to Rulof and Mark. I know you guys were in the background for us, and appreciate it. We appreciate everyone else's time. This webinar has been recorded, and we are going to probably post this on our YouTube page, assuming the recording went well.
And be on the lookout for the Part 2 and Part 3 invitations that will be coming out soon. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to anyone at BCC Distribution to answer those questions or to learn more about something specifically from the presentation. Thank you. Have a great day.